Now, we are going to discuss the style and methodology of the Kathāvatthuppakaraṇa. We see that an elaborated cachestual style is the hallmark of the Kathāvatthu. It is well known that Kathāvatthu has compiled to refute or we can say to repudiate the dissential views held by the different sectarian groups which had arisen regarding the improper interpretation of the Buddha's teaching. In order to do so, the Kathāvatthu follows the two following methods. The first is what may be called the logical method, which is implemented through such means as analyzing concepts, determining their limits and drawing their logical implications. The second is to appeal to the authority of the statements of the Buddha in order to show whether a particular view conforms or not with the word of the Buddha. Since many questions or the issues arise due to a misunderstanding or misinterpretation of the Buddha Vachan. However, both parties involved in the debate, discussion and refutation refer to the statements of the Buddha to support their case. The manner of presentation of the controversial issue is dialogical. The discussion runs in the form of dialogues between the Theravadins, that is the Sakvad, and the opponent Paravadins, who may belong to one among many rival schools. The dialogue seems to follow a well-developed mode of debate based upon mutually agreed upon canons of logical reasoning and categories. The debate begins with each party declaring a position and ends when one party is defeated. To defeat an opponent, one party must force the other to abandon their original position. In order to force an opponent to abandon their original position, each party argues that the opponent's position leads to unacceptable consequences. The consequences of a position is considered unacceptable either because it is merely illogical or incompatible with the original position. An admission by either party that they have abandoned their original position concludes the debate. Therefore, each debater aims to force an opponent to abandon his or her original position. One party tries to prove that an opponent's position is wrong, while other party attempts to defend that position. When one party faces overwhelming evidence contradicting their position, they have no option but to abandon that position. However, no attempt is made to defeat an opponent by presenting arguments that support some position other than the one endorsed by an opponent. No amount of discussion in support of an alternative position would persuade a stubborn opponent to abandon his or her own position. However, one devastating argument against some position should persuade a reasonable opponent to abandon that position. The consequence of this debate style is that arguments are typically always opposing, that always against some position. We see, or we can say, that the Kathāvatthu is a book about method. It describes for the benefit of adherents to various Buddhist schisms the proper method to be followed in conducting a critical discussion into an issue of doctrinal conflict. The text Kathāvatthu offers a clear example of a text whose richness and interest lies elsewhere than in its anticipations of deductive principles and propositional laws. As a meticulous analysis of the argumentations properly to be used in the course of a dialogue of a specific type, its concern is with the pragmatic account of argument, evaluation, the ideas that arguments have to be evaluated as good or bad with regard to their contribution towards the goals of the dialogue with which they are embedded. The leading concern of the text Kathāvatthu is issue of balance and fairness in the conduct of a dialogue. It recommends a strategy of argumentation which guarantees that both parties to the point of controversy have their arguments adequately weighed and considered. It is essential in the narrative framework of the Kathāvatthu that there is a distinction between the global aim of the dialogue as a whole. A talk or a dialogue conducted following the prescribed method of the Kathāvatthu is called a Vāda Yutti. The goal of a Vāda Yutti is the reasoned examination of a controversial point in and through a novelistic dialogue, that is a Vād. The dialogue is highly structured and well conducted under a prescribed format of argumentation.